Hello.
Welcome back, everybody.
It's the end of Tatari Higurashi, maybe?
Maybe not, sort of. You say that like that's a fact. I don't think that is a fact.
See,
I can think of like 3 or 4 other things that need to happen.
Yeah, right? Like, this is like part 19, I think?
It's, this is a long chapter. Some people say it's not, it's like the same length as the previous 2. I disagree. It definitely has more parts to it.
Yeah.
I'm certain of this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you know, by numbers, we should be right about the end right now.
We should.
By what I was expecting, but we are so clearly not.
Yep.
Like, unless we suddenly just go from, like, you know, digging grave to end a chapter in, you know, an hour, which is not gonna happen because it's Ryukushi.
You know, it's possible, but yeah, I can think of a couple of things that need to happen before the end of the arc. So I think we're at least like 3 chapters away from the end. And maybe like an epilogue. Anyway, we'll get there when we get there.
An
my dude.
epilogue?
You can't fall asleep. There's always epilogues and junk.
There was nobody at school.
Oh.
Or at the epilogue.
Not even me.
I couldn't hear the playful voices of children. This was the first time I'd seen the school with such a lack of human presence.
I was like a ghost.
Still, I quieted my breath and looked around, wanting to be unprepared.
Shit, here we go.
It had gotten darker outside, but it was almost like my eyes could see more clearly now. I made absolutely sure of my safety, then walked to the heavy construction machine I'd hidden the metal bat behind. I had a tinge of worry, a premonition that someone had found the bat and hidden it somewhere else as a prank.
Or, you know, just cleaning up the mess you left.
If that happened, would I take that as an opportunity to desist? If it really wasn't there, then the sensation of chilled metal. It was still here where I left it.
Delicious.
It hadn't run away.
Good, it hadn't run away.
Sadashi hadn't run away.
Yeah.
He'd waited here patiently for me.
How ominous.
Hold on. Keep reading.
Sorry for the wait, Sadashi.
Don't click off the page.
Sorry for the wait, Sadashi. It's been a long time coming. You prepared for this? Through the metallic touch, Sadashi grins at me in my mind. That's what I should be asking, you know. I did this last year already. You should be more worried about yourself. Bitchin', Sadashi, yo!
Thank you! That was it. That was the bit.
So that was the old translation you're telling me?
It was bitchin' Sadashi.
So someone in the old translation team was like, you know what would be funny?
Bitchin'.
And then forgot to change it before they put it out.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then it became iconic enough that it's lasted to this day.
Yeah, apparently. Shout out to Epica. We've been planning this for weeks just to get that one line correct, you know, in the original translation, how it should be. Bitchin' Sadashi.
You've been planning for weeks?
Weeks, literally weeks. She messaged me and was like,
What?
we gotta do this.
I
And
just
she sent
imagine
me
you like
reference like videos and
sitting
screenshots.
down at your desk, just like poring over, like, is this the right pixel?
It was the exact correct pixel. There we go. That's the real line.
Let's show him a bad time.
Yeah, bitchin' Sadashi.
Sadashi's bat got lighter and lighter and fit into my hands like it was being absorbed. It didn't feel wrong to swing this. I could move it around so naturally it was like an extension of my own right arm. Of course it felt like that. Sadashi and I were holding one bat together.
Oh,
How romantic.
It's like Japanese samurai. Have I told you about that? How like the West versus the East like view like guns and shit. Have I told you about that?
You haven't, but it may be the one piece of Japanese culture I'm familiar with, but enlighten us anyway, Ben.
Yeah, so the basic gist of it is that the way that the West and the East use guns in action films in particular, for the West, it's more of a tool. You have lots of guns and you throw them away and you grab the bigger gun, da-da-da-da-da. It's a tool to exert your like willpower to get the job done. That's what it is in like the mainstream Western like action flicks. Think about like Bruce Willis and all that, or Die Hard nonsense. In the East though, in Japan specifically, the gun and the sword as well in like Ronin flicks, it's an extension of your will. So you don't just throw it away, it's a part of you. And so that line, how he says, you know, I pick up the bat and it was absorbed in me, is very much a callback to those kind of action movies where the sword is a part of yourself, it's an extension of your will rather than a tool to be disposed of.
I don't necessarily know if that goes back to like the Hong Kong style of like...
I don't know for sure. It's just one of those tidbits that I know.
But yeah, you're definitely right. It's like, I think, you know, as well, at least from the pieces that I have seen, there'll be like a lot of establishing of like how the piece came to be in your possession. Like the story that got it there is like important. Whereas like in say John Wick or something.
Master's sword. And then John Wick is just like, here's a crate full of guns.
Yeah.
I always have a gun in every scene. That's John Wick.
Like there's just a guy that you go to shopping for guns who knows all the flavors.
Money. Yeah, guns are almost always tied to capitalism and like, because that's how you like, you know, have the means to carry out your vengeance because you have connections and you have money and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, even in like the smithing sense, like
for sure.
In like Japanese smithing, for example,
yes,
every samurai's weapon was like, it was like you'd build that for a samurai, and that was like their family heirloom, and each swordsmith had like his own style. Like historically, you can go back and look at the way that the metal is heated through the core of the weapon, and see like how each swordsman did theirs. Whereas a lot of times in the West, it's just like, you know, fucking. You know, the pits of Isengard,
of
just
course,
pouring
they just whack them out.
metal.
It's like a whole pile.
Yeah.
I mean, the like East idea of, you know, the samurai sword, it's where lightsabers come from in Star Wars. Like, every person, they gather the materials and they build their own lightsaber, and there's like 10 different styles, some of which aren't canon anymore, and they're all based off of animals. Like, all of that culture in Star Wars comes from the like samurai, like that kind of that what do you even call it? Not mythology, just like culture, I guess. Yeah, it's very
Never let it be forgotten that Star Wars was a samurai movie, and that as boring as it was, the sword fight at the end of A New Hope was in fact the most accurate in the entire franchise.
It was technically the best. Technically the best of all of them. It's great. No, I love it.
I would argue the one at the end of Episode 6 is technically the best, but that's a different style.
Anyway, whatever. The point is, Kate's become a Jedi, is what we're trying to say.
Next, I would make the call to lure the man out. It wasn't a bad time for it. My friends were doubtlessly parading happily through the stalls. I hadn't considered where to make the call from. My house and Sadako's were pretty far apart. If I called from my house, I wouldn't make it. Couldn't I use the school phone? But as I thought, the room was locked up and I couldn't get in.
Rip.
Shit.
Better go home.
I'm so naive. You should have at least figured this part out. I couldn't call him. And just for that, was today all over?
Woo?
I'm sorry, Satoshi. And just as I cursed my own naivety, a miracle occurred. A bicycle came into the schoolyard. It was a familiar middle-aged man, the one from the Forest Service field office. Why, wasn't today Sunday? Was he here to pick something up he forgot?
Oh, shit.
Anyway, the forest officer went around back and felt around in his pocket and then unlocked the door and entered. The best possible coincidence, and it had to be Satoshi who'd saved me.
Oh, man.
The metal bat, though. Just my contact with it told me this was a chance I couldn't allow to slip by.
This is another one of those things where like you're channeling the spirit of someone who was here or the dead or whatever, like into your weapon. It's so samurai.
The other thing I love about this is the idea that like from just, you know, the murder mystery perspective is like, on the one hand, this could be one of the great ways he gets caught because, you know, someone's let him into the building and they saw him maybe, but also could be the perfect way to, you know, disguise who it is, because it's like, well, the only person at the building at the time was this other guy.
And they figure it out that it was that guy.
Yeah.
And then they die by a spork.
You're right. That is the only way to die other than Oyashiro-sama's curse.
It's true.
Old age doesn't exist. They just feed them sporks.
I don't think I've ever seen someone die by old age, so, you know. I don't believe it exists, just like female vegetarians. I mean, male vegetarians. Shit. Screw it up.
You messed up your own bit.
My bit.
The sections for the forest office and the school were neatly separated.
Get it next time.
I felt the man head into the forest office's storehouse, which was so far in the back students weren't allowed into it. The door didn't match its fittings well, so it didn't close all the way, and the gap in the door opened slowly as if to lure me in.
All right.
I took a deep breath and went in.
Good.
I tiptoed along silently and stealthily and made it into the teacher's lounge. That was the only place with a phone. As I held my breath in the teacher's lounge, I heard the Forest Service officer walking back over. Then the back door clattered shut and was locked. I glanced out the window at the schoolyard and watched as the man got on his bike and, like nothing had happened, and rode out of the school gate. The school once again emptied, becoming deathly silent. I waited for a bit to make sure the silence was the real deal, then reached for the telephone on the principal's desk. Do you reckon he covered his hand so he doesn't leave prints?
Probably not.
Amateur.
No. He's just not going to leave a beginning. There's no need for free fingerprints.
You know what? Maybe you're right.
I fished Sadako's house's phone number out of my pocket. Yes, the number in the class directory for Sadako had been the one from their house now, where she lived with her uncle. I touched the dial with my fingers and then thought for a moment about what to say exactly when he picked up. Despite how many times I'd gone over it in my head last night, now that I had my finger on the dial like this, it started to seep out of my mind like a cracked bucket leaking water.
See, now this I can relate to. Like, you've been saying, like, I can relate to all of this wonderful stuff that Keiichi's doing leading up to murder. This I can relate to. You ever just call up, like, a food place to order food, and you have, like, the entire order prepared, you have it written down and everything,
and then your mind goes blank.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and they're
me.
like, hey, you've reached this place, and I'm like, oh, nice.
Hello.
I'd like,
friends. Will you be my friend, please? Send me food, friend. Thank you. That's it. You're right there.
He's entirely accurate. Simple would be best. More importantly, this is why I love, like, food delivery apps, Ben. Takes all the struggle.
You don't have to talk to anyone.
It's not even like I'm bad at it. It's just like a phone.
You don't want to think about it.
A phone between me and a person makes me just, like, inept.
It's too much of a barrier, isn't it, for discourse? It's too much.
Simple would be best. More importantly, to say it straight and not sound suspicious. I counted off 3 heartbeats and spun the dial.
He's aware of his own pulse. Oh no.
The call sound.
The stress.
Would Sadako's uncle pick up?
It's apparently a symptom of stress if
Now,
you're
of all
aware of your own
times,
heartbeat.
the hope that he wouldn't pick up, the feeling of doom and the knowledge that I couldn't save Sadako if he didn't, whirled around in a vortex.
Uh-oh. Ah, hello.
It was the voice of a grumpy man like he had just woken up. He picked up.
Hello?
Say your name so I know you're Hojo, you asshole. Be terrible if I got it wrong. I made up my mind. I had all the initiative on my side. Here we go. This is the Shishibone Okinomiya police station. Am I speaking to the Hojo residents? I was changing my voice, but did he really think I sounded like an adult? Would he believe I was the police?
Oh, yes. This is Hojo.
We currently have your daughter, Sadako Hojo, here with us.
What? Satoko? What did that brat do?
He fell for it. I could tell by how tense he was that he didn't doubt my words. I can explain the particulars once you have arrived here. Would you mind coming to the station right away?
I've never seen him be this polite. My goodness. All it takes is a little murder.
I know.
Right now? I already took a bath myself, so I don't really want to go out like this, though.
What? You don't want to come because you already took a bath?
Yes, right away. Oh, I see. It was Keiichi like, yeah, I told you, bitch.
Right now. Point to Ryukishi, Ben. How could you do this to us?
You know what? I was thinking. It's fine.
We haven't given a point in so long because it's just all been Keiichi.
It's true. And you don't get points. You're too good.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's what I am.
That's how it is.
Yes, right away.
Right away? Jeez, man, what the heck did Satoko do?
I'll explain once you're here. I'll be waiting. Thank you for your assistance.
1 second. I don't know where the police station is. Where am I going? How does he not know? Is he like a criminal or some shit?
Why does it even matter? Just tell him the path and be like, we'll send a squad car to pick you up from there.
Wait at this exact coordinates. Don't mind the baseball bat.
You moron, what the hell? The Kinomiya police station. I don't know where it is either. Aren't you from around here? Why don't you know that? A greasy sweat came over my body. Eventually, just as I was about to choke, he spoke.
Oh, next to the fire station, right. That's pretty far.
Thank goodness he remembered on his own for me.
Thank goodness.
I didn't care where the police station was, so as long as he left his house to get there. Then we'll be waiting there.
Oh, wait! Who am I asking for once I get there? What is your name?
Uishi.
Say Uishi.
On top of that, he wanted to know my name. Just leave your goddamn house already.
Uishi. He didn't think this through.
Mayabashi. Excuse me.
Oh, no.
That was close. I most thoughtlessly told him my real name. I managed to change the last syllable of it, but...
Perfect crime. No beginnings.
I put the receiver down like I was running away.
Because I was.
My fingers were trembling and I was soaked with the tepid sweat.
Or like a Teppei sweat.
There it is.
Yeah.
We did it. Humor.
Thank you. Even I don't feel good about that one.
I was about to deliver it, and then I saw you lean back in preparation, and I was like, he's going! Here it comes!
Touchdown! Teppei touchdown!
I wasn't just nervous about the phone call. With that call, everything had finally been put into motion.
Here we go. I mean, you can still back out, but whatever.
Yeah, just get him to go to the police station. It's a prank call. Congrats!
Woo!
I left the school. It was locked before, but it was easy enough to open from the inside.
Why couldn't... He hasn't thought this through at all, has he? It's almost like he's not as perfect as he thinks he is.
But I couldn't lock it after I left. In terms of being thorough, I wanted to lock it, but I couldn't waste time going back to the teacher's lounge and looking for the key. I needed to rush back as fast as I could and ambush him.
Well, you could. Whoa!
Whoa, he's so fast!
Faster than a cheetah!
I zoomed back to the scene on my bike. If Sadako's uncle got out of town before I ever got there, everything would be over. He'd learn there was no one at the station named Mayabashi, and things would get pretty messed up. As I returned at full speed, I passed a family wearing yukatas. They must have been on their way to the festival. Many people in Hinamizawa knew my face, though I didn't know theirs. Even just passing by them like this made me uneasy. But I didn't generally come around here, so those living in the area might not have known much about me. That didn't matter right now. I needed to get back as fast as possible, to control my breathing, to ambush the man. I hid my bike in a thicket and picked up Sadashi's baton, which I'd just left hidden in the shade. And then I held my breath waiting to see someone. I wondered if he still hadn't gotten here.
Ooh.
Or maybe he went right out after the phone call and passed by here already.
No.
I couldn't figure out which it was and was set upon by an indescribable impatience.
I'm really excited for them just getting lost in the woods together and having a romantic jaunt that ends in them both falling into Sadako's traps and dying.
I'd be okay with that. That'd be a good ending. I'd be satisfied.
Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. Even if he came here already, he'd pass by here on the way back, right? The end result would be the same. It wouldn't change the fact that he'd die.
Oof.
He'd probably be coming on his motorcycle. How would I stop him then? I figured it would be best not to think too hard and just hit him as he passed or beat him out of his seat. The path was made of pebbles. If I hit him as hard as I could and made him lose his balance, he wouldn't be able to help falling. And then, the chorus of the Higurashi stopped. The sound of a bike approached from far away.
Oh.
I couldn't tell what sort of motorcycle it was from its sound, but I'd seen it parked before, so I know. It was getting rapidly closer. It was almost here. If he just went a little farther, he'd cross into that thicket and appear in front of me. I'd take a moment to make sure it was him. Then when I had, I'd put my plan into action.
What if he just didn't do it? What if you let him pass?
That'd be a pretty lame ending.
A twist, wouldn't it? It just cuts the credits.
The motorcycle appeared. A few easily identifiable characteristics told me it was Sadako's uncle's bike without a doubt. Was it really him? Was it really Sadako's uncle? I wasn't making a mistake, was I? I looked at its characteristics again. Its color, shape, and most of all the man's clothes.
And a Hawaiian shirt.
And face. Those last feelings of hesitation, I did away with them. Sadako, now, your Nini will end it, okay? Closer, the bike came closer. Let's go, Sadashi. Yeah.
What whoosh?
I jumped out of the thicket. I used my shoulder to basically tackle the uncle on the bike with all my might.
Did it work? Oh my god, it seems like it's worked.
He gave a dumb shout as his bike completely lost its balance.
Oh no.
Finally it fell, the bike scattering clouds of sand, and spinning it stopped. Her uncle, tossed to the ground, didn't understand what had just happened and groaned for a few moments, crouched on the ground. My breathing started to become ragged. No, I couldn't have this emotion. Some weird secretion crossed through my brain and nearly made me hallucinate. Her uncle was groaning. Now is the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What was I doing? All the sounds in the world cut off. My mental chaos from a moment ago withdrew like a lie, and I could feel the temperature in my head rapidly cooling down. The tension in my muscles all went away like the strings they'd been attached to had been cut, and I let my hands dangle at my sides. It wasn't quite like exhaustion. Have you calmed down now, Keiichi Maebara? Do you need to remember again why things got to this point today?
It's great. Ew. Quit that.
I stepped over the pebbled path, taking one step, another step, then another towards Sadako's uncle. The more I walked, the more my breathing calmed. The more I walked, the more I felt my body cooling, calming, chilled with frost. Yes, at this moment this guy had lost permission to live. I had just rescinded it. So he mustn't stay in this world any longer. If he lived any longer, if Sadako's misfortune continued, it would be my responsibility for having allowed him to live. could feel the cooling substance going through my whole body, even down to my capillaries. Her uncle was at my feet now, still on the ground like an idiot. I smiled coldly at how ridiculous he looked.
That hurts!
That's all it took for it to hurt. Sadako's heart hurt much more, and now you're going to feel that. And with your life, I'll make up for her pain. I erased all unnecessary information from my mind. I prioritized the murder of this man. Execute. 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 I just wanted to point out that I have been clenching my fist so hard.
So tense.
Like,
yeah.
It's like numb.
I'm getting into it, dude. You just want him to die the death. Oh, there it is!
Utterly
Tension
calm.
Gone.
I delivered my fist. Utterly calm. I delivered my first strike to the back of his head. I wanted to get at the most effective spot. At least during that first moment, I'd have to attack him while he was at his most defenseless.
Yeah.
And if he was hit in the head, he'd cover his head. It was a defensive reaction all humans made, like machines. He used both hands to cover his head so he couldn't pick himself up off the heap he was in the ground. Like pounding a caterpillar into the dirt, I hit him over and over. If he covered his head, I'd hit him in the side. If he covered his body, I'd go for his head. If he rolled over, I'd strike his feet, his knees, his elbows. I didn't care where anymore, but just delivering one blow after another. I induced panic in him. I retained my overwhelming advantage, but I hadn't done nearly enough to deliver a fatal wound.
Yeah!
Her uncle skillfully pulled himself up off the ground and started to run like a fleeing rabbit. It wasn't a judgment he'd made after seeing my face and deciding whether to fight me. Right now he was fleeing by instinct, just trying to escape from the threat that had presented itself. A counterattack from the more physically capable uncle was what I was most concerned about. He may have run, but it wasn't all that unlucky. And the odds were in my favor. The uncle didn't run away towards people, but off the path and into the woods. How pleasant that he would run in a direction where nobody else was. He was fleeing into strange geography like a rat that instinctively runs into tight spots over and over. Yes, he was no longer human. He was a rat.
What's mean?
The blood vessels in my legs expanded and my total oxygen supply increased. You know what? You know what they described
What?
Tunnels with in certain wars around the world?
What?
Rat warrens, man. Is this foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing!
Foreshadowing!
Foreshadowing.
The blood vessels in my legs expanded and my total oxygen supply increased. I lowered myself to gain the most explosive velocity I could. Without breathing, I became a wind-like shadow and dashed.
Whoosh.
I crossed thickets and crushed dead tree branches underfoot and dove through woods like a bullet. He ran so cowardly, arms flailing as he went. After catching up to him, I didn't need so much as a blink of an eye to strike him again. My senses, my mind and body were all sharpened purely to kill this man. This was the first time I'd felt like this. Well, this was the first experience I'd ever had killing someone. It felt natural continuing to do this for the first time. And that meant I had this much talent for killing. Or perhaps the act of killing was so simple that anyone could do it. I didn't struggle or grow tired at all chasing the clumsily fleeing uncle. No matter how much he ran, it was like trying to get away from his own shadow. He couldn't get away from me. I could easily aim at his back, his shoulder, and his head even from this unnatural stance. Each time I struck him, he wailed in pain and begged pitifully for forgiveness, but it didn't disturb my mind. I was neither excited nor plagued by hesitation like before. I felt sharp. I felt like a carnivore. Of course, so did the uncle who was trying to run away because he didn't want to die. He didn't want to be eaten like a herbivore running with all its might trying to get away. Despite all the attacks, despite all the hits, he kept on fleeing without even staggering. And despite the bad footing in the forest, he impressively never tripped over anything. But there was no need to admire that fact. It was simply proof he was no more than an animal. If he was chased, he would run. If he was going to be killed, he would run. He bared his fangs at the weak, but couldn't oppose the strong whatsoever. He was lowly, vulgar, a diminutive animal.
Keiichi says having ambushed a man. You know.
Yeah, not cowardly, strategic.
Very strategic.
He bravely, nay, heroically hid himself in a closet.
Such an puny little creature. Pause for effect. Had harmed Sadako. Scar after scar to her body and mind, deep wounds that might not ever go away as long as she lived.
I thought the whole point of this was to not have it not go away as long as she lived, but you know.
Whatever.
You know, just tiny details.
That's right. I got this. I guess. Tell me. We're getting there.
Whoa!
Whoa!
My cold and calm emotions suddenly turned into bestial ones. My personality changed into something specialized for murder, purely to devour the diminutive animal before me.
No!
The uncle gave a puny little shriek, covered his head, and ran.
What a nerd.
I'm impressed by how much you can run.
That's all rabbits.
Fine, run as much as you like. I'll be your death. I will choose the moment at my leisure. Your legs will hurt. Your lungs will feel about to burst. Your head will hurt from lack of oxygen. If you feel the pain has become worse than death, then by all means, stop any time. Without turning back, suffocating on his terror of the approaching death, he just ran shamefully onward. He ran but was chased, his head bashed with the metal bat, sweat and drool flying everywhere, blood clinging to him. From his mouth came the sounds of coarse, irregular breathing and high-pitched screaming that verged on crying, and pleas for forgiveness to someone I didn't know who. Each and every second was a second of atonement that I granted him. Now run. Then fall and moan and die. Where did you even crawl out of anyway? You were never here before. If you were never here, you should never have showed up. If you never showed up, our lives would still be fun and enjoyable. We would have gone to today's festival and waited for each other and gone to the shrine laughing. We would have been playing amongst the stalls right about now. We'd be browsing the strange food stalls you only saw at festivals, trying to get prizes from goldfish scooping, ring throwing, or target practice. Mion would surely make it into a competition, and we as a club would have a grand time. And everyone would have been cheering for Rika-chan's dedication dance, and everyone would say how fun it was, and how it would give us energy for days to come. Fun, enjoyable, and funny warm times spent with friends. And that would have happened, but it didn't, and now it's all smashed to pieces. There was no doubt that would be what the world was like if you never showed up. You were the obstacle, the mistake, the heresy in that world. But I would correct that mistake now. I would raise you and make it so this last week never happened. Tonight was the Botanikashi Festival, the holy night where taking just one life was permitted in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse. It looked like the Higurashi stopped crying at some point. When the Higurashi cried, everything would end. And the Higurashi silenced. Lowly one, the hour of atonement is at an end. The Higurashi have stopped their crying, thus it is the end. The end. You don't have to run away anymore. Die with those dirty brains of yours smashed everywhere.
Oh, there it is. He needs like a Bible or like a preacher outfit.
I know.
Right?
Also, I was very much just getting into it then.
That was great. I loved it.
But can we just talk about the fact that he's like, I've prepared this nice grave, nice and close, but not too far away.
And then he chases in the woods.
Yeah, just chases him onwards.
It's perfect.
Can't wait for the just full chapter of him just dragging and monologuing with his corpse.
It's gonna be great.
Lightning and thunder struck like an explosion. It was so loud it shook the ground and I smelled gunpowder.
Ooh.
The response I got this time was clearly different from the one before. The metal bat crunched into the crown of his head, and it was like the top of his head had caved in. The bat felt like it was biting him.
Yeah.
It had been the final, killing attack that visited him. When I didn't overlook the opening he left as his knees gave out under him. I remained alert for a few seconds, then thud, thud. I planted both knees in the ground, and then fell forwards burying my head in the ground. Like an ostrich.
The murderous ostrich. So adept at murder and killing.
I'd been holding back my ragged breathing, but now it all came out of me like a dam bursting. My head was dizzy and light, and unable to maintain my balance, I leaned against a nearby tree. The uncle didn't try and guard his head any longer. After a disgusting sort of spasm, he stopped moving.
And one more hit.
Did I get him? Did I get him for sure?
One more.
I fought back my exhausted urge to fall over where I stood and drew towards him carefully. Bat still at the ready. It was possible he was faking it and trying to wait it out. Should I check for a pulse? I realized right away, though, how unnecessary that would be. If I thought he might be faking it, then I would just have to keep pummeling him until I was satisfied.
Most efficient way of confirming a corpse.
I fought back my ragged breathing again, and then I swung my bat far above and brought it down. His body leapt like a bow, but he didn't try and cover his head. Then once again I aimed for his head and swung. His reaction was the same this time. After spending a few moments making his head into mochi, the hits gradually started to feel different and it started to spray a filthy dark red liquid everywhere. That was enough. It was definite now. I had absolutely killed him.
Certainly.
There was no sense of accomplishment nor one of regret. I didn't feel any anger towards Sadako's uncle nor pity towards Sadako herself. Instead, right now I was feeling like my heart had been stolen by the downpour. It had begun to rain at some point, and how comfortable it felt. The rainwater drenched my body and dripped down to the ground. The excitement within me faded as the rain washed away the grime. In exchange, my shoes were so wet they made splashing sounds. And despite abusing Sadashi's bat like that, it wasn't bent very much. There were a few dents in it, probably from hitting the man, but nothing that would make it seem different from before. Instead, it had been stained with black, with red, with mud and blood. But that itself would be evidence. The one piece of evidence needed to prove that my delusion hadn't just been daydreams, and that I'd ended Sadako's uncle for all eternity. All right, Keiichi. Calm your mind. The time for passion is over. Now's the time to be cold as ice. I needed to bury the body. But where was I?
Uh-oh.
I'd simply followed the man as far as he ran into the darkness. I couldn't take a guess as to how far we'd run.
You fucked up!
It was already pitch black around us, and the only light I had to go on was the very faint lights on the road a little further down. It was so dark out. I hadn't noticed the darkness until just now. My vision was so good I could see the man's ugly hairline. I could have counted the pores in his head. It was only now I realized how much crazy strength I had mustered at that moment. I went over to the streetlight. I looked up and down the road, desperately trying to figure out where I was. Oh no. This was the one road connecting Hinamizawa to the town. We were unbelievably far away from Sadako's house. Had the two of us really run so far a distance? My surprise that was accompanied by a knowledge of the miraculous fact that despite running so far and making so much noise, we hadn't come across anyone at all. There was a long way between here and the ambush location where I dug the hole. There's no way I could carry the body that far. Wait, aside from that, the bike the man took here was still lying in the middle of that path. That would be an issue. The police could tell whose motorcycle it was by looking at its license plate, and they wouldn't just leave it at that. Thankfully, the corpse was in a dark forest. In terms of urgency, dealing with this bike would come first, and I wanted to get the shovel back from where I'd left it next to the hole. I shouldn't drag the body there. I'd have to deal with it right here. Fortunately, the ground was like mud from the downpour and was more sludgy here than where I was before. I might be able to dig a grave quickly here.
But how long did you spend digging the first one? Was it all day?
Yeah, Ben, but that's not the point. The point is that the ground's wet.
It's wet, so it'll be slightly easier maybe.
Yes, and definitely won't just start caving back in on itself the moment you dig the slightest hole.
No, Keiichi, no, baby, please.
Of course, my bicycle was still over where I left it too.
Physics!
It still wasn't over. Homicide had only been half of my goal. The other half would be just as important as the first. I'd completely hide the body, not allowing a beginning to happen. I'd erase the man like he'd never existed and regain the peaceful times we had before. I bent my head backwards and calmed my mind even further. The big water droplets struck my brow mercilessly. They were actually quite comfortable in for a while I let my desire have its way. After confirming that I was sharp again, I started running through the rain. The motorcycle was in the grass at the roadside. Considering how it looked, pelted with rain and covered in mud, it actually seemed like it had been lying there for a very long time. The plan was to drop the motorcycle into the swamp. The swamp was a bit of a walk from here. I lifted the bike up. I didn't think it would be so heavy. I was a little surprised, but once I had it upright, it was fairly easy to roll it along. Still pushing this thing all the way to the swamp was really not something I wanted to do. I could no longer ignore my exhaustion, and it warned me numerous times of how far away the swamp was. This motorcycle, I wonder if I could ride it well enough. Once I got it going, it would be basically the same thing as a bicycle. Wouldn't it get me to the swamp quickly? The plan suggested by my exhaustion, the anxiety at getting on a motorcycle for the first time withdrew. I turned the key and then you just kick this pedal, right? Yeah. It's on. And then I gripped the handlebars, first the right, then the left. Maybe I twisted them too much. The bike lurched and did a wheelie like an angry horse. I lost it for a second.
Hold on, it did a wheelie like an angry horse?
Yeah.
Horses have wheels in this universe?
Yes, of course they do. How do you think they get around so fast?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Underneath those hooves, there's little wheels like stuck in the bottom. They go.
I lost it for a second, but it was just a problem of how much torque to apply.
All of it.
Wow, he knows all of this terminology and he's never ridden a bicycle.
He's so clever.
Let's try that again. This time, slowly, gently. That time it went well. It was strange to be on a two-wheeled vehicle that would go even if I didn't pedal. Very odd, but I got used to it quickly. My aunt once told me you could get a scooter license within a day, and she was clearly right. This was pretty easy. I needed to throw the metal bat into the swamp too, but I didn't know how I would pack the bat onto the motorcycle. Without much other choice, I stuffed it in the back of my shirt, feeling like a ninja carrying a katana.
What'd I say?
Edgelord extraordinaire.
Look at him go.
If I put the tip down the seat of my pants and hunched over, it wouldn't fall out. I got back on the bike, and this time, got going without any difficulty.
But now he's gonna have blood all over his shirt, even more than he probably already has.
And like inside his shirt as well, all over his back. He's gonna have a long shower.
I carefully pressed the button labeled light, and a rather strong light came on, illuminating the way forward.
Should you be doing that? Is it a good idea?
See, like, really, I feel like the optimal course of action for him would have been...
Is to not turn on lights!
Would have been for him to, go back, take the motorcycle.
Okay, sure.
Go back to where Teppei was.
Dump tie him to the motorcycle?
Pull Teppei's shirt off, use it to tie him to the motorcycle, drag him to the hole.
That works.
And then take the motor, because the rain's gonna wash away the tire treads, right?
Maybe?
Thinking
ahead. Do you think you could, like, put Teppei on the back of the motorcycle and, like, lean his head on the go button somehow? Is that a thing?
You've never ridden a motorcycle,
Is there a go button on a motorcycle?
No.
No? Okay. Well, invent a go button for a motorcycle and put his head on it. Or put his hand on the grip or whatever. Yeah, the thing you gotta press. You know what I mean.
I probably really shouldn't have turned it on, but I didn't have any way of seeing at this point and had zero confidence I could ride through this darkness. As the rain came down on me, I maintained a precarious balance and inched my way towards the swamp. Along the way, I ran across a few people who seemed to be returning from the festival, but none of them had any interest in me. They were all either soaked through with the rain or hurrying on their ways home, or had their umbrellas low and their heads down. Yesterday, I might have been wary of these passers-by, but right now it didn't seem to be much cause for concern. In fact, it would probably be less suspicious to be riding out in the open like this instead of sneaking around.
No!
More and more, though, I started to think of that idea as naive, brought on by my exhausted state.
Yes! What are you doing? You're on someone else's bike!
I climbed a steep hill. On a bike, the hill would have put me out of breath, but I just had to accelerate a little to climb the entire thing. Motorcycles sure are convenient. For a moment, its lights illuminated a sign before I passed by it. Onigafuchi Swamp. Good children do not play around here. Still, it wasn't like the way to the swamp was cordoned off by a metal fence or anything. He just runs into a metal fence, stacks it, dies there, end of chapter. Parents and teachers would get mad at you if they found out you were playing at the swamp. But some of the bad kids in my class apparently snuck out here sometimes to see the giant crayfish in the place. They talked before about how they'd go to the candy shop and buy some pickled squid and then just tie it to a fishing line and throw it, and all the crayfish would come running. Once I got up to the bank, there was a tiny ritual shrine and traditional ropes on one of the trees.
What?
And as it swallowed the downpour whole, the blackened swamp had waited for me. If I slammed on the accelerator from the cliff-like stop I was on now, the thing would fly straight into the middle of the swamp. I had to be careful not to fall in with it. If I drowned and disappeared, man, what a stupid ghost story that would be. On the night of the Watanagashi, Sadako's uncle's corpse was found in the thicket by the road leading to town, and Keiichi Maebara went missing. I would be so happy if it just went blank after this.
Yeah.
People would whisper that I'd been demoned away. The 50 years curse would be a half-baked one.
I mean, that's where you get the most, interesting stories, right?
I got off the bike and twisted the accelerator as hard as I could. I let it go just when it seemed like it would drag me forward. The bike shot off the cliff and was swallowed down into the swamp, leaving a far fainter splash than I'd imagined. Its surface was being pummeled by the downpour, and the muddy, filthy water was flowing into it. I couldn't even make out the motorbike I'd just thrown in there. It was pretty heavy after all. Probably be quickly engulfed by the soft mud at the bottom of the swamp, and it would be pulled deeper and deeper until it reached hell itself. I felt no reluctance whatsoever in throwing the man's motorbike down to the land of the demons, but I did have a tinge of regret when I did it with Sadashi's bat. The muddy water washed off the gore, sticking to it, and it sunk easily. I'd sort of shared today's events with Sadashi, so I wanted to give it a quiet place to stay. That's how I felt. I started to feel more like returning into the locker from before, so it could continue to keep watch over Sadako. Sadashi, misunderstood you. Satoshi listened quietly without nodding. I'm absolutely convinced now. You were the one who beat your aunt to death last year and saved Sadako. I always scorned you and called you a coward who ran away, but I was wrong. To the rest of the world, some deviant was behind that incident, but I know. That was something you did for her. And then you disappeared. You finally got back that peace and lost it within days. Is that foreshadowing?
Foreshadowing.
No, it's foreshadowing, Ben.
It's both. Maybe it's both.
Maybe it's both.
It's post-foreshadowing.
It's both shadowing. We've been over this, Ben.
What if I want neither? What if that's just a thing?
No shadowing?
No shadowing.
So
the ultimate shadowing.
Exactly.
No shadowing. It's where you don't even know there's a shadow there.
It's just a fusion generator.
Yeah.
Just in the story, just inexplicably. It just shows up.
It like is in the swamp. It like rises up out of the swamp.
It's like, oh, why is there? Whoa, it's such a bright... What?
Keiichi, I have come for you. I am the great fusion generator.
I am Shenron.
And that's how the story ends. That's it. That's the conclusion.
So I swear to you that I will live life to the fullest from now on. Live it enough for the both of us. I'll live on as though this day never happened. But I'll never forget this short time we shared together as long as I live. I didn't know what expression Satoshi made as he listened, but as someone who had protected the same girl, I felt he had smiled and given me his blessing. And then, my hand moved of its own accord, and the bat I had hesitated to throw away left my hands and flew through the air. It traveled its parabolic path, spinning all the while, and the swamp absorbed it without a sound. There weren't even any ripples when it hit the surface. That surface was tempestuous. Because of the downpour, and the bat was long gone. For a moment I regretted having thrown it, but I realized that might have been what Satoshi had wanted. You're right. I still can't let myself give in to emotion just yet. I would return for my shovel, get on my bike, dig a hole to hide the body, and bury it. It seemed like a simple sequence of events, but I felt extremely exhausted and I had to do it all tonight. Satoshi left me with only the advice that I needed to finish this up soon, then fell silent for eternity and disappeared at the bottom of the demon's abyss.
Whee! It's like a roller coaster, Danny Cage. You should join me.
I'm really excited to see how this just goes catastrophically wrong for him.
Nah, I'll be fine.
I returned to the path I had ambushed her uncle on. My bike was hidden, sleeping in the brush. I stood it back up. My whole body felt heavy, but I needed to finish by the end of the day, even if I had to whip myself to do it. Oh, I forgot something. I didn't just come here for my bike. The shovel was here too. Not good. I was zoning out. Every once in a while, if I let my guard down, my vision would almost go black. Pull yourself together, Keiichi Maebara. It's still not over. I went to the grove of trees and looked for the hole in which I had hidden the shovel. Unfortunately, I had hidden it deep in the forest, not wanting to be seen, and now everything was black in the night and I couldn't see anything anymore. I reawakened my fading consciousness and realized just how big this annoyance really was. Wait, you can't be serious. The sweat the rain washed away before came back up to my skin. Deep, deep in the forest where the streetlights could never reach, the fact that it would be so pitch black had been completely uncalculated. With this much darkness, even if I had been able to kill him right away like I'd planned, I didn't know if I still could have buried him without a problem.
If only you brought a torch.
Yeah, but then he gets found out by the whole village and they spend the entire chapter...
As I said earlier, he should not turn on any lights, but still, should have brought a torch.
I mean, listen, in terms of things Keiichi shouldn't have done, we're well past the threshold.
It's like a seven, what is it called, a tree of choices or whatever. We're way past the point of no return at this stage.
What should I do? I simply couldn't find the shovel tonight. If I forced myself to go deep into the forest, I'd lose even my sense of direction and might actually get lost in there. That might have been an exaggeration, but it was fully possible I'd trip over a tree root and sprain a muscle. Alright, my house's storage room. There was another shovel there. The same fold-up kind. Couldn't I go back to the house, get the shovel, and give up on finding the shovel tonight? It's not as though the name Maebara is written on the shovel.
What?
Pause for effect. Probably is.
But it seemed like an unusual item from an import variety store, made in another country, so I didn't want to leave that shovel here. But in this darkness, I couldn't do anything. I should give up and go back to the storage room. And there was an electric lantern in there. If I used that for light, I could look for it. But it was so extremely dark, could I light the way with just the lantern? The light of a lantern in this dark night. I couldn't discard the possibility of it drawing eyes. And if I doubted I could find the shovel with the lantern's feeble light. Besides, I left the body for a pretty long time already. My sense of fear, dulled through excessive exhaustion, finally reared its ugly head. Anyway, for now, the most important thing was to hide the body. shovel being found wouldn't be a big deal, but a corpse. If they found that, I'd share the same fate as Sadashi. First, I'd go back to the storage room at home, and I'd get the lantern. Now that it's gotten this dark, I might still need light to dig a hole for the body too. And I'd get the other shovel, and then I'd deal with the body first thing. Once that was done, I'd come back here, find the shovel, and bring it back. I had to do at least that much, but I was so tired. The complaining was getting me nowhere. If I started getting complacent now, everything will have been for naught. At some point I had sat down. I gritted my teeth and endured, lifting my heavy hips. The night was young. Of all the nights I'd experienced, none had ever been this long. When would it all end? The night was young.
Oh
my goodness.
There we go. It's another chapter through.
That was great fun. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
I'm glad that you did. I hope that one day I will also be able to be a crazy murderer.
It's unusual to have a story that's basically just like a monologue for like so many straight chapters and me still be interested in it. I feel like normally if we get one like straight monologue for so long, I'd just be like,
it's still going.
Move on already.
Yeah, but like it's tense. There's stuff happening, and I think that Higurashi does a really good job of focusing on like this. I don't know, like this tiny thing that's happening in the world, and like makes you feel like it's the whole world.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say in the comments about this sequence of chapters in particular, because like I feel like this is a section that I would be most bored by reading by myself. But the whole facet of performing it is really what's engaging me, because there's just so much fun to have with it.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's fun getting to play unhinged characters and all that sort of thing. That's why I do it so much. Yeah, no, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. And I don't think we're quite done with it yet.
Oh, it's such a scary thought. We've got so far to go.
Yeah, we've got like 3 or more chapters at least, my dude. But we're getting there.
Keiichi still has to snap and kill the rest of the village.
I know, right? What?
Well, I mean, come on. This is Keiichi. It's going to escalate just absolutely out of
don't
control.
worry about it. Don't worry about it. Keiichi's got this. He's going to bring it down. So? This is the worst of it, and then we go back to the happy fun times. That's what he said, right? That's his plan.
When has Keiichi ever said a plan that has gone correctly?
I mean, he said he'd murder Teppei, and he has, right?
But it didn't go according to plan.
But he still killed him, right?
Well, I mean...
He got there in the end.
Technically, if a plane crashes, it still lands, Ben.
I know, right? But he planned to crash the plane, so...
Did he, though?
Yeah. He said, I'll kill Teppei. Everything else is not so great, but he got there.
Teppei with perfect planning, and everything had been thought out. And now he's basically...
Look.
Like, Keiichi's the kind of guy that gets home at the end of a work day, and he's like... Oh man, I'm gonna do some exercise. I'm gonna get some extra study done. I'm gonna practice my instrument.
That's me.
And he gets home, and then he's like, I'll have a sandwich and go to bed.
Look, that's me. No good plan survives contact with the enemy, and in this case, the enemy is laziness. No good plan survives contact with laziness, guys. Keiichi, or an old man with a very large skull.
Next time.